Hello sweeties, welcome back to my channel. So in today's tutorial, we'll be learning how to make this beautiful long straight skirt with hip pad. This video contains both the cutting of the skirt, the cutting of the hip pad, and the padding, everything, how to stitch it to your skirt. So if you know you're having challenges in doing this, make sure you watch this video to the end. Don't skip any part because this is a complete detailed video. So make sure you watch, like, subscribe, and share this video. Thank you so much. So guys, I'll be cutting this skirt with my lining. Later, I will now transfer it to the main fabric. The main fabric has design, so with the lining, I think it will serve a better view. So what I have here on fold is my hip measurement divided by 4. So anytime you're making a straight skirt like this, make sure what you have on fold will be enough for you, as in when you are cutting when you divide your hip measurement by 4 plus the sewing allowance. So guys, this is what it is. Let's go into the main business. Thank you. So guys, I will go ahead and take all my vertical measurements first. Can you see where I place my tape? I'm starting my measurement from 1.5 inches. So this 1.5 inches will be replaced later with my band. So the first measurement I'm taking vertically is my hip line, which is 9 inches from my waistline, followed by my knee line, which is 20 inches. So after that, I will now take the measurement, the full length of my skirt, which is 44 inches. So I will come back to the waistline. I will take my round waist measurement, which is 34 inches divided by 4. So I will add 1.5 inches for sewing allowance. So from there, I will now take my hip line again. So I'm taking it right now at the center so that I'll be able to rule all the lines across. Can you see what I'm doing? So right there is my hip line, then my knee line, which is 20 inches from my waist. So I will connect all the lines. So I will come to my hip line. I will take my hip circumference divided by 4. Then I will add 2 inches. 1 inch is for my hip, while 1 inch is for my sewing allowance. So I'll go ahead and connect it from my waist. So I will come to my knee line. I will remove 1.5 inches from whatever I have around my hip. So I will connect from my hip to my nail. So I will now go to the down part of my skirt. So the same measurement I took on my knee line is the same measurement I will take at the down part of my skirt. So I will now connect them with my long ruler. I'll connect it from the down part to my knee line, as you can see me doing. Remember, I added 1 inch because of the hip pad. Can you see that? So this is for the front part. I will go ahead and cut the back part. So I will go ahead and place the front part on a fresh fabric. The fresh fabric is still on fold. So the only difference between the front and the back is just the zip allowance. I'm using 1.25 inch for the zip allowance. And another difference is that the back part has a dart while the front part doesn't have. So I will come to the hip side. Can you see? So I will add 1 inch. This 1 inch will be for the back dart. So I will now connect it to the hip line. So I'll use my French curve and connect it to my hip line. There's no need to add that to the front part of your skirt. So if you used to do it, it's not really necessary, because there is no hip, no bum bum at the front. So why adding that to the front? Can you see? So I'll go ahead and slash the zip allowance open. So from that my zip allowance, I will measure my nipple to nipple measurement. So I will now make a notch. So this is where I'll be sewing my dart, and the length of my dart is going to be 5.5 inches because it's a long skirt. So the next thing I will do is to place the lining on top of the main fabric and cut it out. So make sure your main fabric is 1.5 or 1 inch longer than the lining. So this is what it is. So I will also identify the part where my dart will be. So I will notch it now on the main fabric. So after that, the next thing I will do is to cut my hip pad. So this is a pattern paper for a short skirt, so I'll be using the back part. Can you see? So I have 2 pieces here, so I'll be using one for the front and one for the back. So to cut the front, I flipped the hip part to my side. So where I am right now is my hip line, which is 9 inches from my waist. So I came in by 4 inches under my hip line. Can you see? From my waist to my hip line is 9 inches. So I will now rule a line there. Remember I said I came in by 4 inches. So this is for the part that will be at the front. So I will rule a line across. So after that, I will still rule a line from my waistline to the length of this pattern paper. So this is for that 4 inches I came in. So this is what it is now. So the next thing I will do on this line, I will come down by 2 inches because this part now is serving as my center front. So this is my center front, so I have to come down by 2 inches because the hip pad will not start from my waist. So I came down by 2 inches. Can you see what I'm doing? So this part now will be for the front. So I will now connect it from that 9 inches from my hip line down to the length of the pattern paper. Can you see? So this is the part that will be at the front. If you can come in by 3 inches or 3.5 inches, it will still be, I think it will be perfect that way. So I will do the same thing to this part. So this part now is the part I will be using for the back part. This will serve as the back part of my hip. So I will rule a line across, that's my hip line. So I will now take my hip circumference, which is 10.25 inch, but now I have to make it like 9.75 because of this part that's my zip allowance, so you don't have to cover all that part with the hip pad. Can you see what I'm doing? So I will now connect it from my waist to the down parts of my pattern paper. So don't forget I added 1 inch to my hip measurement because of this hip pad. So the thickness of my hip pad is 0.6. It's supposed to be 0.5, but when I measure it, what I have is 0.6 inch. Can you see what it look like? So this is my 0.6 inch hip pad. So I'll go ahead and place the pattern paper on it. Can you see? I will do, this is for the back, I will do the same thing to the front. So I'm cutting 2 of it. The back part I cut 2 of it, the front part I will cut 2 of it. Remember, you're putting it on the 2 sides of your hip. So this is for the back, so I'll do the same thing to the front. So this is my skirt and this is the back part. So I have already stitched my dart. So I'll go ahead and take my final trimming after stitching my dart. This is the back part. So I will take all my horizontal measurements, that's my hip circumference, my waist circumference, and all of that. So I'll go to my hip line. So what I have on my hip line is accurate, it's exactly what I want. So I'll locate my knee line. Remember to remove 1 or 1.5 inches from whatever you have around your hip where you're taking your round nail, that's your nail circumference. So can you see what I'm trimming out is not really much, but I just want it to be accurate. Can you see how curvy? Can you see how curvy the skirt is? So this is the back. I'll go ahead and cut the front part. So this is the front. So on the center front, I will come down by 3/4 inch. That's the center front. So the lining is under. I'm trimming the lining at the same time. See, I came down by 0.75. That is the center, that slope at the front. Can you see what it look like? So this is now the skirt, both the front and the back part. This is the main fabric. So this is what it look like. I will notch on the zip allowance. So I'll go ahead and join the skirt together. So this is the front part. Under, I will place the one part of the back part. I'll place it on top. See, as if I'm joining them together. So I'll go ahead and join them. Can you see the hip to the hip? This is one side of the back on top of the front part. So I will now place the second back part. So I'll go ahead and join them together. I will do the same thing to the lining. Why I'm joining it like this is because I'm using a hip pad. So this is my hip pad. I will stitch it all round. I will stitch all the edges. I will stitch all this to flatten that edges. I will stitch it round. Can you see? I will stitch it twice so that it will come down well. You can decide to trim it if you want, but I think I prefer stitching, or you can still do the both. Can you see the skirt? I've joined them together. I've joined both the front and the back parts together. This is the main fabric. So this opening part now is the zip part. Can you see what it look like? Can you see our skirts? Please watch this video till the end. I assure you will never have issue attaching or cutting your hip pad. So this is why I have to make a complete video on everything, both the cutting, the sewing. So this is the lining. Can you see? So I'll be stitching my hip pad to my lining, and I'll be stitching it on the allowance. That is the side allowance. So I'll pick up my hip pad. Can you see? So I've joined them together. So that, remember when I was cutting, I came down by 2 inches from my waistline. So that part now, I will place it at the front. So from my waistline, I will come down by 2 inches again. That's where I'll be stitching my hip pad from. Can you see? So I'll come down by 2
You can come down by 1.5 inches, but I'm using 2 inches here, and it came out perfectly. So I will now place my hip pad. So I will stitch it on the side allowance. So this part now where my finger is the front part. Can you see? So I'll start stitching it straight on that side allowance. I will now stitch it round. Can you see? This is my zip allowance now, this part. So I'll stitch it round. See my zip allowance. So that's the part now that is remaining. Can you see? So all these parts, I will stitch my hip on it. So I'll do the same thing to this other side. Please guys, remember to subscribe to my channel, give this video a thumbs up, share this video so that others will see it. Thank you so very much. So I'm done doing that. Can you see what our hip pad is looking like? Can you see that? So I have attached the hip pad to the lining. So the next thing I will do is to turn my skirt, the main fabric with the lining. Can you see? This is the down part. So I'll fold my lining into 2. So I will locate the midpoint so that one part will not be longer. I'll do the same thing to the main fabric. I'll fold it into 2. This is the down part. I will locate the midpoint, the center. I will notch. So I'll go ahead and open it. The wrong side facing down. Now the wrong side of the lining is facing up. So I will now stitch them together. Can you see? I'll stitch the down part. I will now turn it. After stitching, I will top stitch on the lining. So I've done that. So this is what it looked like. This is the down part of my skirt. I've ironed it. So I will now join the side, but I will join it, I will turn it. So I'm not joining because I'm not weaving any part of this skirt. Can you see? So I will now use the skirt, the front, the lining to cover. You see, I've turned it. I've turned the side. So I will now match the seam allowance together. So this is my waistline. I'll make sure that both the lining and the main fabric, everything aligns. So this is my band. This is my skirt band. I cut 4 inches width and the length is my round waist. So I will also locate the midpoint of my band. I will do the same thing to my skirts. I'll locate the midpoint. Can you see? So you can decide to stitch your band from the center, or you can decide to stitch it from the back. So anywhere you want to start your stitching from. So I'm stitching from the right side of my fabric. Can you see? So after stitching it, this is what it looked like. Can you see? So I will now turn it. I'll push that edge inside. So I will now close it. You already know how I do my skirt band. It's very, very simple. So I'll push the seam allowance inside. Then I will now close it. So after closing it, I will now close the zip part. So I will run a stitch down. After running a stitch down, I will now iron it. So after ironing it, I will now open the part where I will stitch my zip. So I'm done doing that. Can you see? So the next thing I will now do is to measure where my zip will stop, my 9 inches from my waistline. So this is my zip. This is my long zip. I like using a long zip, big head invisible. So I'll now measure 9 inches because the short zip is not as long as my hip line. Is about 7.5 inches or thereabouts. So I prefer using a longer zip for my skirts. So I will now attach my zip. Can you see? So guys, this is what our skirts look like. It's so easy to make. Thank you so very much for watching. Please share this video, give this video a thumbs up. So on this down part, that's my slit. So the next thing I will do is to hold it down with my hem gum. I will iron my hem gum under. I'll place it under and I will give it a very good press. Bye. See you in our next tutorial.